Doing good. How are you?
Very well. Well, the big story today, Tom Brady, his suspension has been nullified. He's going to suit up week 1. He will not miss 4 games this season. What does that do fantasy football-wise? Tom Brady's draft stock, is he now one of the top quarterbacks out there?
His value is going to elevate. I'm not sure he's a top 5 quarterback, but he's certainly a QB1 that people, if they drafted him early in early drafts, certainly get a bump in value today.
Where was Brady before? Where was Brady on the assumption that he was going to miss 4 games?
Well, on a season-long basis, he was right around quarterback 10 to 13 range. But now that he's going to be making those 4 starts, he's going to be in the 6 to 8 range. But on a per-game basis, many people were just saying draft him in the 10, 11, 12 spot, and then just get somebody to patch in there for the first month. But now you don't even have to do that.
What does this do, Jeff, for some of his weapons? A guy like Edelman, obviously. Gronkowski, we'll get to the tight ends in a few moments here, but Edelman, Reggie Wayne maybe, probably not him, but Amendola, Brandon LaFell. What does that do for the weapons of New England?
Well, I still think that New England's going to run the ball a lot because their offense runs through the run game, and that sets up the pass. The issues with the passing game right now is LaFell. We don't know if he's going to be even ready for week 1. He could wind up on the PUP list. That's why Reggie Wayne, we speculate, was signed. So Amendola and Julian Edelman, always questionable about their health. So I think the one mainstay there is Gronkowski's going to have a big first month for sure. And it's just a matter of who's going to suit up. I think Amendola and Edelman are your next 2 options.
I wanted to ask you about another quarterback. RG3's been benched by Jay Gruden out there in Washington. Kirk Cousins, that's his team now. What happened to Kirk Cousins' value? Where is he at?
Well, it certainly boosts up. He's not a top 20 quarterback, but he's a viable starter with decent weapons. You have Deshaun Jackson, you have Pierre Garçon. Both of those guys can catch the ball well. After that, it gets a little murky. But I think with him being a stabilizing force, you're not going to have the running upside that RG3 had. But I think he's a solid backup quarterback in the right matchups. He could be used because Washington's going to have to score. They're predicted to be the 4th best team in the division.
Jeff Pasquino, footballguys.com, fantasy football insider, right here, 97.3 ESPN FM. All right, let's switch over to the tight ends. We've covered the quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. Now over to the tight ends, and the second biggest winner today, of course, is Rob Gronkowski getting Tom Brady back for the full season. Is he the best tight end in your opinion, Jeff, on the board?
Without question, he's the top guy. Jimmy Smith has been considered number 2. But they don't know how he's going to fit into Seattle. He's been blocking a lot more in practice. I think he's going to be used a lot, but Russell Wilson isn't quite as talented as Drew Brees in his heyday, and the offense doesn't run through Drew Brees like it used to. So I think with no Drew Brees as a factor, Jimmy Smith drops down to 2nd tier, and the top tier is Gronkowski all by himself.
Are you worried about Gronkowski's health, do you think? Because he missed a few games last year, but he still kind of had a monster year. Are you worried about Gronkowski's health at all if you take him with your number 1 pick?
No, because a lot of his injuries they weren't muscular or ligament-type injuries. They were like broken bones and stuff. So those things heal and gets right back to full strength. If it was a tight hamstring persistent problem or an ACL, might be more worried for him to come back, but he's at full strength and fully healthy now.
Let's talk about a guy close to home here, and Zach Ertz didn't really have a breakout year last year, but a lot of people are expecting a breakout year this year for Ertz, but he is injured now. We're not sure if he's going to make the opening game against Atlanta. Where was he at before the injury, and now where is he at currently, in your opinion, Jeff?
Well, I've been telling the rest of my staff that, be very careful about Zach Ertz. Growing up as an Eagles fan, I watched the Philadelphia Live. I still do. And I just don't see Chip Kelly using the tight end as much. He likes Brent Selleck on the field. He can block better. And Ertz just wasn't developing there. He's a great receiving tight end, but he's more of a move tight end. And now with Sproles being used in the slot more often, I don't think that Ertz is going to see as much as everybody thinks. So I think he was getting overdrafted as a top 10 tight end with upside, and I don't see the upside. I don't see him becoming, a Travis Kelce or anything like that. I think that other guys are I think you've got other guys that are out there that represent much better value. And I think that I think was it Trey Burton that for Philadelphia did
Yes.
the preseason. He did really well. I think that kind of guy is more of an option for Philadelphia's passing games as a number 2 guy. I wouldn't invest a top 10 selection, a top 10 tight end spot for Zach Ertz right now.
When is the best time, Jeff, to draft a tight end? Is it early on? I mean, if you don't draft Gronk or maybe Jimmy Graham, when is the best time to select a tight end?
Well, there's really 3 tiers. You mentioned Gronkowski, and then there's the second tier, which is, you've got Jimmy Graham, you've got Travis Kelce, you've got Martellus Bennett, who I think is a solid option, and Greg Olsen. Both Bennett and Olsen saw bumps in value because the wide receivers went down their respective teams. That's the second tier. If you can get those guys around round 4, round 5, that's a solid pickup. If you don't get those guys, I would wait until around 8, 9, 10 and get a Jason Witten, something along those lines. And if you want to wait even further, you can. There's certainly viable options after the top 10 go off the board. Take both Colts tight ends, for example. We love Heath Miller. I think Heath Miller is available after round 10. He's going to represent a top 12 value that you can get very late. So I think the sweet spot is around round 4, round 5, round 6, where you can get a top 5 to 8 tight end. And if you miss there, just grab Heath Miller in round 10. Be happy.
That's a really good point, because if you're comfortable with some of your other guys, some of your other wide receivers, or, you got 2 good running backs there, are you almost better off waiting and drafting maybe Antonio Gates, who's going to miss part of the season, we know, but Larry Donnell is down there now. You mentioned Dwayne Allen and Kobe Fleener. Are you better off maybe just waiting till the last couple rounds to draft your tight end if you are comfortable with some of your skill position guys?
Well, I do some analysis on tight end by committee, and there's Heath Miller and Austin Seferian-Jenkins in Tampa Bay represent great value as a combination. But you have to look at your draft and see, can you afford two spots for tight ends on your roster? It depends on how big your roster is. But if you can, then that's a great option. You can wait all the way till the last third of your draft to get those 2 guys, or go with the San Diego pairing like Gates and Ladarius Green, because San Diego's going to throw a lot. And don't worry about your bye week, get somebody later. But that's a very good option. But you have to look at your scoring system and see if you get a bonus point for a tight end catch and see how it works out. But if the scoring is minimized for tight ends, there's absolutely no rush to get one. We didn't mention Kyle Rudolph and Jordan Cameron. You can get those guys around 8, 9, 10, and that's a good sweet spot. But look for sweet spots in your draft. That second tier around 5, the third tier around 10, and then Heath Miller after that.
How about the kickers and some of the defenses out there? Is it still the same usual suspects with guys like Justin Tucker's up there, and Vinatieri, of course, and Gostowski for New England? Dan Bailey, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very interesting this year with the extra point being moved. Now you're kicking 30-plus yards for an extra point. That can impact both the scoring for a kicker, and it can also impact the number of tries he gets, because some teams, like I think Philadelphia, might go for 2 a little bit more often. So you have to be wary if you're going to take Cody Parkey. I think there's lots of good viable options very, very late for kickers. Josh Scobie just got traded to Pittsburgh, for example. Not many people know that, so you can get him probably in the last round. I think some teams are going to have to score a lot of points to play catch-up. I think Nick Novak in San Diego is going to do very well. But you can find lots of guys in the top 12 to 14 kickers on our listings that you can get in the last round of the second to last round. As far as defenses, I'm looking at matchups the first 4 or 5 weeks. Tampa Bay and Indianapolis have very soft schedules to start the year, as do the Jets. Those are the top 3 guys I'm looking at. And also Philadelphia scores a lot of special teams points, but they have some tough matchup early on. I love Tampa Bay right out of the gate. I think Tampa Bay, even Cleveland at the Jets, those lesser-rated defenses in ideal matchups like the Colts have are a really good option to get in September.
So in your advice would be not to just go after Seattle, not to reach on Seattle or a team like Houston who always has a stout defense, just go by matchups?
I believe so, yes, because if you find a good matchup against a bad offensive line and a weak quarterback, the defense is going to score well. And that's where Seattle was doing so well, because they played Arizona with no quarterback. you don't often see an elite defense repeat year after year. Some teams are built that way. Seattle, it's not quite the formidable defense as they once were. I think Buffalo's up and coming. I think Houston's up and coming. There are lots of teams that are up and coming on defense, and you get to really look at matchups that are a much better predictor of defensive performance than just taking a top 5 defense predicted in the preseason.
All right, Jeff Pasquino, footballguys.com, our fantasy football insider right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Jeff, enjoy the Labor Day weekend, and we will have you on next Thursday to preview the season.
Fantastic. Enjoy the games, guys. See you. Have a great holiday weekend.